Welcome to the world united. Yeah. Welcome to the world united.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Meet the Master series by the World United. My name is Ram, and I'll be your host for today. Masters come in various forms at various stages of our life and in various dimensions. For when we were young, they were like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. They were Superman, Batman, Hanuman, and we also have spiritual masters. In this series, we'll be talking to various spiritual masters across the world. And as the first session in this series, we're talking to Dr. Yugandhar. Welcome, Dr. Yugandhar. We know Dr. Yugandhar in various forms, like a surgeon, a founding member of the World United, World Parliament on Spirituality, a spiritual master by himself. So we want to understand more about Dr. Yugandhar, how he got his inspiration. So Dr. Yugandhar, over to you. Would you please introduce yourself as a soul, as a spirit, as a physical person?
Okay. Introduction about myself is basically spiritual because that is the most important aspect of life and the most essential knowledge that is required for every human being. And the introduction from the social reality is altogether a different entity. As far as spirituality is concerned, I have been on the path since my childhood, unknowingly, not knowing that there is spiritual path. For a child, the very path that he knows within is spiritual path. That's all. And it has different descriptions, it has different definitions. And no child knows that it is spirituality. Once he becomes adult, contaminated by various impressions and imprints of adulthood, of adolescence, the various conditionings and programmings of the social reality, he comes out of his path. His energy, his consciousness takes a outward movement. Something gets centrifugalized. When he comes out of himself, he is off the path. Only to realize the greatness of staying within, the importance of staying connected. Then he goes on searching for various masters, various organizations, various soul soothing modalities. Maybe he will find himself after some time, maybe he doesn't find and end up as adult, the adulterated one. So my case started in childhood, and in the social reality, I'm a general and laparoscopic surgeon in Hyderabad. And for me, the outer world, that me, known as a doctor and a surgeon, is not different from what I am within. Because the fact is, what I am within is reflected in what I do outside. So for me, the surgery and spirituality are not two separate entities, but one and the same. So this would be the best way of presenting myself.
Sure. So that's childhood spirituality becoming that adulterated spirituality. Adulterated is not the word, but how did you realize when you were a child that spiritual information that you had at that time is much beyond that childhood characteristic that one has?
My journey started with a few books given by my mother when I was 8 years old. I was born in Kadapa town Andhra Pradesh state of India. My mother is a school teacher. She gave me some religious books which I learned in one single go, like Hanuman Chalisa, Ishwar Dandakam, Bhaskar Dandakam, something like that. Till date, I remember every word, though I am not reciting for the past nearly 30 years. But still, I remember every word, what I learned when I was 8 years old. But thousands of times as a child, I recited almost on a daily basis. This helped me to internalize my consciousness. This helped me the value of staying within. And when I was traveling like that and understanding the value of staying within, I didn't have any intellect. I didn't have the mind, what you call as mind, the thinking and reasoning, logic and all. I didn't have that. For a child of 8 years, we can't think of so many things. But pure consciousness, my body and spirit, that's all. And that was my spiritual journey, my personal spiritual journey. And that helped me not to move into cacophonic thinking, not to move into any type of confusion. There is no mental confusion, very clear. And the journey proceeded. And examination times were the times for a student when he has to be more intense. I think there is only period when a student has to be more intense in every child's life. So for me as well, it was not an exception. I wanted always to be intense during examination time. And one thing happened, one strange thing happened one day. I don't remember when it happened, in which year. Probably it has been natural to me. I started discovering that when I was becoming more and more intense within, I was finding myself in the lower belly, viscerally, within. My consciousness was always internalized. Even in that internalized consciousness, I always found myself in the lower part of the belly. And I also observed that a thought can be placed in that center. A thought, an idea, or a problem, or a situation can be placed in the center and start scanning from that conscience. When we start observing from that very rooted consciousness, a thought or idea or something which doesn't have any clarity, when you put it in that frame, internalized consciousness frame, everything used to be crystal clear. Clouds used to fall away. That became a habit of mind, a regular habit of mind. And what I always used to think is, every given moment, if I can stay in that centeredness, it is called as intelligence. My definition of intelligence was that, to stay centered deeply in every given moment, come what may in external world, irrespective of any external situation, irrespective of any external environment, day or night.
Dr. Yugandhar, you mentioned about finding the internal consciousness in the lower belly. I believe you have a concept for that called hara. And you mentioned central intelligence. There is this English movie called Central Intelligence, which is a funny movie by itself, but the word central intelligence is awesome. Please go ahead with your thoughts on the belly and hara.
Yeah.
More information.
So this was not told by anyone, any of my elders, and this was not read by me. It was a natural discovery in my case. And for the intelligence that I had, a child's consciousness, I never felt like thinking that it is uncommon or rare. No, I felt that it is common for every human being. The journey continued. As a child, I was academic. I was very much interested in reading books, but never followed the conventional style of reading, like reading the book chapter wise, preparing for exams. Okay, preparing for exams was there, but chapter wise reading, the systematic style of reading, a conventional mode of memorizing things, no. I had a habit of reading the entire book. If I start book, I complete it. Textbooks and story books were alike for me. So that's the reason why I developed a strong dislike for textbooks, because to read line by line, chapter by chapter, remembering all these things was very disgusting for me those days. But because I was into the habit of reading books, I used to read a lot of books, story books. Till date, I have not met a person who read more stories than me. Fortunately, we had in Kadapa town a lot of libraries, wonderful libraries, and I used to complete nearby libraries completely. I used to go to district headquarters, a very big library, very popular library of the state. So frequently, I used to go there. Every evening, my leisure time was in library.
So how did this childhood internal consciousness grow up to become the bigger spirituality that you're now teaching to the world?
I joined AP Residential Junior College, Nagarjuna Sagar. It was Ranker's World, and my intensity to stay within deepened. For 2 years, reading was my meditation. Many people think that meditation means a technique, a tool, or a shortcut of going within, or a methodology of some sadhana to go within. For me, meditation is to be present, to be available to your core, to be available to your deeper consciousness. Whether your eyes are closed or your eyes are open, your consciousness must be awake. That means you must be awake, because you are not away from consciousness. What you think you are is basically your mind. What you really are is your deep consciousness. And that becomes very intense when you are totally within. So that withinness, that internalization of consciousness become more deeper and more constant. And my understanding of valuing this staying within idea became much more intense. Thus continued 2 years of my life. And those days my studies were my childhood methods of reading a book completely. So I completed all the books, first year, second year, intermediate. In first year itself, almost. And second year, I went to read BSc Botany, BSc Geology, completed. MSc first year Geology, Botany, completed. So I developed a lot of love for botany, geology, and not truly interested to join medicine. Not truly interested means I wanted to prepare for civil services with options botany and geology, and my interest continued even after I joined medicine in Karnal Medical College in 1987. So the journey took a different turn, and in 2007 there was a change. There was a realization. There was some revelation, rather. I happened to visit Rishikesh on the invitation of Swami Vedabharati, who was a disciple of Swami Rama. Swami Vedabharati lived with Swami Rama for 55 years. And Swami Vedabharati is a guy who was born in Sanskrit speaking family of Uttar Pradesh. A very, very educated, learned man, not by way of going to school and universities, but a self-taught man. And Swami Rama used to be in the audience of Swami Vedabharati when he was taking classes. Even from the age of 9, Swami Vedabharati used to take pravachanas, the teaching discourses. Swami Rama used to be in the audience, and slowly the teacher became his disciple. Swami Vedabharati became disciple of Swami Rama of Himalayas. So on the invitation of Swami Vedabharati, I visited Rishikesh. Earlier also I visited Rishikesh because I was in Delhi. I was for some time in medical oncology department of All Indian Institute of Medical Science. So I used to visit Rishikesh quite often, but this time it was different. The visit was different. I entered the meditation hall of Swami Rama. There was a poster. There are 3 secrets of meditation. One is silence, second is silence, the third is silence. That was a poster on the meditation hall of Swami Rama. I went inside. There were a few dozens of people lying prone, and I was very interestingly watching them, what they are doing actually. After some time, I inquired. So they are practicing the asana called as Makarasana, the crocodile pose. One forearm on the other and forehead onto the forearm, and lie down with feet apart, shoulder width. When you stay in this position, the chest is lifted up, abdomen touches the ground, and you can breathe only through abdomen, never it can be felt in chest. Swami Rama used to encourage this Makarasana to all his students. And one interesting fact is, the yogis of Himalayas, like Swami Rama, when a stranger meets them, they see not your face first. They are less interested in what you are, where you have come from, but they are first primarily interested where you are breathing from. If you are breathing from abdomen, yes, this is a person for meditation. Then they will speak. They will at least take interest in conversation. But when you are breathing through chest, they don't take interest. They are not interested in delivering spiritual subjects. They will just talk casually and do not take much interest in their spiritual elevation. For them, abdominal breathing is the most important thing, very strictly. Swami Rama and many of the Himalayan sages. Same with Osho. Osho entire life, his teachings and practices were based on the center of consciousness, otherwise called as Hara in Japanese language. I came to know about all these things in 2007 for the first time. Surprised because I was into this path without anybody's guidance, without reading any book. It was a natural discovery for me. But I started undervaluing it from 1990 onwards. Because from 1990, meditation has become a tool to practice, a method to practice. With hour, 1 hour, 2 hours. And meditation hours are different from non-meditative hours. The duality started. I became stupid. For almost a decade. More than a decade. 2007, I started realizing my stupidity of undervaluing my natural discovery. So I closed my hospital in 2007. Immediate step. I spent almost 1.5 years there. 1.5 I used to come to meet my family in Pune, Sangli, Maharashtra. Almost 1.5 years, I didn't do any surgery. All my OT equipment, hospital equipment was put in a godown. I was paying just rents. No professional practice. 1.5 years, I was trying to recollect what has been lost. Understanding the value of staying within. Re-understanding the importance of internalization of one's consciousness. Not in terms of serious practice, but a practice with ease. My discovery of spirituality is the sadhana has to be with ease. Inner ease is the key. Without inner ease, spiritual practice becomes a serious phenomenon. A mind that is made still should not be called as still mind. The practice of meditation through a technique and tool makes you still, but that is not still mind. Soon after it emerges, repercusses, making you enter into this your own repetitive, recurrent, robotic thinking, patternized thinking. All your programmed habits do not leave you. With inner ease, with the help of inner ease alone, you become yourself. You try to scan every thought, all the stupid thoughts. You try to examine every feeling. You start questioning your belief systems, your faith, your ideas and ideologies. Everything comes to this scanning attribute of the center of your consciousness. That is what is called spirituality for me. It's a rediscovery, nothing else, nothing new. And it is a continuous affair. It is a 24/7 affair. It is not like I have done meditation today for 1 hour, my day is over. I went to my morning walk, my day is over. I complete my day. No. Once you are on the path of internal journey, otherwise called a spiritual path, every moment you should be in a scanning mode, self-questioning mode. When you enter this self...
I've heard some of your other speeches where even your surgery, you call it meditation. Hours of surgery, you call it meditation.
Yeah, true. It is not exaggerating when I say surgery can be turned into meditation. Surgery can be transformed into meditation. In fact, every act, brushing the teeth, walking, talking, listening, every act that we do, take up in the visible world, can be transformed into meditation. When every act can be transformed into meditation, one need not go to some secluded place, need not live like a recluse, need not be taciturn to people, need not be in isolation. There is no social parenting here. We can take up all normal activities in normal, natural way, but be oneself. To be yourself is the key. That is the first step. To be yourself, the way you are. That is the first step in the path of spirituality, the most important step.
So, Dr. Yugandhar, in this current world, current generation, current situations, people want fast of everything. So, if there is a message of 5 points that you want to give that people can think of, or what will directly benefit them, and then they come onto this path, what would they be from your side? What's your message to people if you were to put them in 5 bullet points and for them to take away and then go from there?
Yeah. See, in the present times, the modern times, people always are aiming at quick fix solutions. People are always aiming at immediate results, immediate responses. Today, if a person gets into the path of meditation, next hour he wants to see the results. The reason why the spiritual workshop mafia, rather the spiritual workshop mania, has engulfed the world. Spirituality has become industry. Spirituality has become market, where so many techniques are kept for sale. There is price tag for every technique. The most unfortunate situation. So all these saleable ideas, saleable techniques, tools with a price tag is all nonsense. Spiritual path is totally a different path, and it is a pure individual discovery. So we cannot define, yes, this is spirituality, this is meditation, this is ultimate technique, This ultimate path of spirituality, all these tall claims are all absurd and nonsense for me.
So then, if spirituality or rather meditation can be one part of spirituality, what are the other dimensions of spirituality? Or how do you actually define spiritual? I mean, if there are multiple dimensions, there cannot be one definitions. But to understand what is spirituality comprised of?
Yeah. In the social world, people live as per one's programming. Most of the individuals are programmed individuals. Their thoughts and actions are based upon their self-created subconscious programming. They're typical. When you move with a common man for 4 days, by 5th day, you will be able to know his mind totally. The words he's going to speak, the thoughts he thinks, the actions he's interested. If you move with a wise man, you cannot guess, you cannot measure him. Because he's like a flowing water, he's like a river. You cannot catch the same river twice, there's a saying, old saying. Because it's a flowing water, you can't hold the water, same water doesn't exist. By the time you try to catch hold of it, there is a rush of water. A wise man is like that, a master is like that, he's a kind of continuous flow. Because he's on a learning spree. He keeps on learning, upgrading himself. So the shortcut methods of training, programming of a common man, the social reality, they all drop when he enters into the path within. So the spirituality or spiritual path is one path where you drop everything that you have learned in social reality. You erase every imprint, image, impression that have been written on the psyche, in this psychological software, psycho-emotional software. Everything that is embedded in this software has to be removed bit by bit. That removal of all the imprints is called as the purification process or the path of spirituality for me. So once a person gets purified, and it is a continuous ongoing journey, not only he has to get purified from all the imprints, he has to see that no other new imprint will fall on this slate, cerebral slate. He has to take care of removing and elimination of all that is there. He has to take care of not to be a prey, not to be a victim of the massive herd human consciousness. He has to be himself. That is for me the true spiritual path. And it is totally unique, totally natural with each and every individual who calls himself as spiritual.
There are often times when spirituality is also mistaken with religion. For some reason, people mix spirituality and religion and they overlap. So, is there a difference?
Yeah. Religion is based on a mafia of belief systems. The founders of all religions are all spiritual masters, wonderful spiritual masters. The oldest religion of the world, Hinduism, had multiple teachers, unlike other religions which has only one teacher, or a few teachers rather, a guru parampara or a guru. But in Hinduism, so many, it says 3 crore deities, 3 crores, not 1 or 2, 3 crores. Jainism, 24 Tirthankaras. For Buddhism, only one Buddha, Gautam Buddha. For Judaism, Moses. For Christianity, Jesus the Christ. For Baha'i, Baha'u'llah. Like that, all the religions are based on the teachings of the masters. When a spiritual novice, when the pupil, when the ardent seeker catches hold of the teacher instead of the teachings, he becomes religious instead of spiritual. When he catches hold of the teachings instead of teacher, he becomes spiritual rather than religious. That's the main difference.
Very well said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you are catching, that is most important. Teacher or teachings. Catch hold of teacher, you become religion. You become religious. Either a Buddhist or a Christian or a whatever, Hindu or a Muslim. If you catch hold of teachings, you become yourself. And this becoming yourself, being yourself, is for me the path of spirituality. But you have been educated, trained, and made to believe that you have to follow a certain belief system from childhood. That's why we are born Hindus, born Muslims, born Christians, born Buddhists, born stupids. Unless we try to take the path within, erase that has been taught, eliminate that you think you are, to become that you actually are. Thank you.
So, spirituality and soul journey, are they connected? Do we carry some information from our past life, taking them forward, or is there a relation, or does it interconnect?
Yes, we always start from where we stop, even in social reality or spiritual reality. So what we have learned in the past life, we definitely start from where we stopped. The journey continues till we become ourselves. Once we become ourselves, we don't have to take a retrospective journey. We don't go back. Till we become ourselves, our stupidities are always recurrent and very much repetitive. When there is a cessation of this recurrence, certainly the journey begins. When the journey begins, it almost ends. When the journey begins, it almost ends, because once you are on the path of journey, you will be sucked into the journey. That's all. You don't go back. Beginning is very important. Entering on the path is very important because the very path will take you. Because this path is not a well laid out path, unlike the linear world, social reality, where everything is systematic, where everything is linear, where everything is gradual, step by step. In the spiritual world, the inner path, everything is unconventional. Nothing is really laid out. But the very intensity of what you are inside, that takes you ahead. That is the main difference.
What was your idea when you formed the World United? What is the basis of it, and what are your intentions from the World United?
That was in the year 2004. I was a forced bachelor. I was in surgical practice, active surgical practice. My wife went to her native place, and I was all alone. In a family, I feel that at least 1 month in a year, the wife and husband should not stay with each other. At least, at least 1 month, maybe more, if it is possible. That's the time when you actually start working on yourself. There will be a lot of space for you to catch hold of you. So what has been lost will be regained when you are all alone. In the word alone, there is a word called all in one.
Oh, different perspective. All right.
So aloneness for me is very important. Like I told, inner ease is very important in the path of spirituality. Aloneness is very, very important. Aloneness is not loneliness. Aloneness means all in one. You getting centered. So I was all alone. That is all in one, the point of time. And the consciousness of Mahavatar Babaji, with whom I had an encounter in 1998, first encounter. He revealed in the form of a feeling, a gut feeling, a very strong hunch. Start the World United. I didn't understand. Really, I didn't understand anything. But I know the thrust of the message. A message from the master is always full. It touches your core. It happened to me in such a way that I was in active surgical practice. Nobody closes the hospital just like that. It is not possible. So difficult. 2004, I moved from my place of surgical practice to completely to Hyderabad. I moved. And I wanted to spend leisure time, not full-time surgical practice, leisure time. I joined as a consultant to one good hospital with minimal number of hours, pondering and trying to incubate on that idea. 2007, I initiated the event called as the first National Conference on Spiritual Science. That was on 29th November 2007. 1 year later, I came to know 30th November 2007. 1 year later, I came to know that that was celebrated as the birthday of Mahavtar Babaji. It was a coincidence. And there was so many things happened around that event. Many things happened. For the first time, I met Swami Vedabharati. For the first time, he came to Hyderabad in his life. Once the event was over, Swami Vedabharati asked me, "Can you book a cab? I want to visit Charminar." So, a man of that caliber, person of that caliber asked me to arrange a cab to Charminar. So, how can I say no? Yeah, yes, sir, please. So he said, "Today, 8 p.m. we'll meet." So I went to the hotel where he was put up 10 minutes before. I was waiting for him. We sat. My first question was, "Sir, how is Charminar?" He became intense, closed his eyes, and told, "I meditated under Charminar. The goosebumps started on me. I was waiting. He was delivering some message, important message. He told me that Swami Rama used to tell him many times, when you visit Hyderabad, you meditate under Charminar." I said, "Why? What is there under Charminar?" "There is a big Sri Chakra, very powerful Sri Chakra, between the 4 pillars of Charminar. Exactly. The Vastu architects of Nizam those days selected exactly that spot. It was once a Lakshmi temple. And constructed the Charminar exactly on the Sri Chakra. And that was umbilical point of Hyderabad. The Nizam governance moved from Golconda to Hyderabad. And that was umbilical point, the center of the city. He changed the city because of increased population in Golconda. So surprising it was. Okay, these are all. What happened? Then I conceived the idea of World Parliament on Spirituality in 2007. Slowly, the unfolding process of the idea of the World United started emerging. In the world, as you asked this now, the difference between religion and spirituality, as is this religious fundamentalism, so is the spiritual fundamentalism as well. When two members of different diverse organizations meet, they talk not about their wisdom. They talk about the leelas of their gurus, the greatness of their gurus, how they are different from each other by way of techniques, all these things they talk. They don't share about what they discovered in the form of their wisdom. That I call as spiritual fundamentalism. A branded spiritual seeker. There is no brands in spiritual wisdom. So, birds of same feather flocking together, we all know. But birds are different feathers, different paths, different types of wisdom, different linguistic and cultural backgrounds, and different in every way. Flocking together is very difficult. We always need a reason or a cause to get identified with each other. But spirituality as awakening, inner awakening, spirituality as wisdom, becoming a point of connecting people, bringing the element of togetherness, activating the feeling of oneness and brotherhood. That is always difficult practically. And if two masters meet or two leaders meet, spiritual leaders in any event, their handshakes are always with a clenched fist. Shaking hands with a clenched fist. That's what is happening.
Why?
Because they identify how different I am with him, how different they are with me.
Okay.
We don't work on similarities. We don't work on common agendas. We always focus how dissimilar we are.
Very interesting. Okay.
Even for political leaders, if you see, who are no mundane life, I'm sorry if I'm using political leaders, but fact is, political leaders are generally treated world over as people of great selfishness, people who are masters of exploitation. All these elements come into the mind when somebody is called as politician. This is a common trend present days. But when a situation strikes in such a way that it is so demanding to get together, work together, get united, the coalition governments are being formed across the world. They are able to manage the coalition. But why spiritual coalition is not being manageable? What is the problem? These are all wise people, right? Very wise people, respected. They are deities. They are the human gods for many students. But still, they won't form the spiritual coalition because they want to be present themselves as a brick, not as a cement. The world united wants to work like a cement, uniting all the bricks. We don't want a separate agenda. We don't want to expose. I'm not interested to create another cult. Already the world is full of cults, organizations, separative consciousness in the form of different ways, diverse spiritual organizations. I'm not interested in a separate cult. I'm not interested in making any followers. Absolutely not interested. I want to see, I'm visualizing a cementum, a spiritual cementum, adhering all the thoughts, adhering of various organizations, teachers, leaders, everything related to spirituality. That is what is called the World United. And we are working as per our capacities and interests, inclinations.
So this year you are conducting the third World Parliament of Spirituality in December or latter half of this year. So
Yes.
what is the agenda for this year, or what is the concept or theme of this year's the third World Parliamentary Conference?
The first World Parliament on Spirituality happened in 2012 in Hyderabad. There was a massive participation from 56 countries from all continents. For the last Universal Meditation Hour, 42 million people signed up for that across the world, and it was watched webcast by people from 165 nations. 2016 it happened in Utah, USA, and 2020 we wanted to have in different continents physically. But because of Corona and all, now we want to make it online event from October first week onwards to last week of December. We want to cover 6 events, inviting different types of spiritual masters from different backdrops, and almost some 800 to 1,000 spiritual masters I'm visualizing to have them to speak on the platform of the Third World Parliament.
Wow.
The Yeah, that the main principle is togetherness. How we can create the oneness, despite all the diversity that we have. It is not the diversity that is important. It is the unity which is most important than uniformity. Every spiritual leader tries to create something called as uniformity. Uniform, standardized techniques of meditation with certain rules and regulations, with certain guiding principles. This doesn't make a person a spiritual master. All the set of rules, set of techniques, making people feel, think, and believe that this is ultimate, finally end themselves as missionaries and spiritual slaves, nothing else. Mastery is totally different thing. Mastery is completely free, a freedom. In spiritual organizations, in many spiritual organizations, people are called as masters. People are called as acharyas. People are called as preceptors. And the best way of enslaving people is appreciate them, kill their soul. That's what is happening, unfortunately. Appreciation is soul killing. It kills the soul. You can enslave anyone with the help of appreciation. Praise him, he will become your slave. And tell your slave that you are free, you will become slave forever. It is age-old saying, if you want to make a person a slave, tell him that he is free. He will become your slave forever. That's what is happening. That's what is happening in the world. To break these barriers of nonsense in the form of spirituality, a type of togetherness, a real, practical, implementable, understandable togetherness is needed. The word training, that which is seen in linear world, doesn't exist in inner world. In inner world, instead of the word training, something else is there. It's called awakening. What is training in outer world is awakening for inner world. But what is happening is the inner world is also trained so that they will follow these spiritual organizations, rules, and become missionaries. And they're called as masters. Unfortunate facts. All nonsense. The mastery is totally in a different realm, a different paradigm. There is a different dimension. No one can teach spirituality. No one can teach meditation. Impossible. Spirituality and meditation has to be learned, but can never be taught. They have to be learned. So to be a good student, to be a good Vidyarthi, is the preliminary step to enter on the path of spirituality. To be a good student. When you are a good student, invariably, by default, one day, yes, you find yourself. And finding yourself is called as mastery, a self-mastery. For this, something called as self-cultivation is required. What is meant by cultivation? We plow the soil, the mind is soil, we plow it. By way of plowing, it becomes loose. The mind is already plastic and elastic, plastic and rigid, metallic. It has to become loose. You have to plow it. Sow right seeds of thoughts. Remove all the weeds, all nonsense, all spiritual junk, spiritual spam, all the nonsense of social reality, all the weeds need to be moved out. This is called as self-cultivation. A type of cultivation is required for a person who enters the path of spirituality. Self-cultivation alone leads to self-mastery. And self-mastery, spiritual mastery, spirituality, meditation can never be taught by any person. Enlightenment is a phenomenon that which cannot be given. Enlightenment is a phenomenon which has to be experienced and earned, not given. Not possible. Thank you.
Those were very powerful messages towards the end, Dr. Yugandhar. From where we started, meet the master, to how the self-cultivation leading to self-mastery was a very well done conclusion.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have many more such sessions with you, because this limited time is not enough to know the master that you are, and we will continue the path forward.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.